Hello everybody and welcome along to the second best sim racing podcast on the airwaves, because as we all know, in sim racing there's always somebody better than you. My name is Martin Hughes. The show of course is hosted by RRL or RRLeagues, and in the booth tonight for our first episode we have Cy Fillingham, Clive Britton and Robert Horvath, and we'll join them as they just go into conversation about how they started their sim racing careers and how they find themselves today at RRL. Ready to go then, boys?
Yep.
Right, so Roger. So
Okay.
with me tonight, hey, what?
Sorry.
That's all right. That's good. So with me tonight, I've got the three admins from RRLeagues. We've got, I hope we wouldn't mind me calling you the grandfather of the group, Cy, but Cy Fillingham, Robert Horvath, and Clive Britton. He's got the nicest Irish accent you'll ever hear. But Cy, first of all, I mean, like I said, you're the grandfather of the group. Tell us a little bit about how RRL or RR League started and where you came into it. Because I think you're the oldest serving member now, are you?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, hi Martin. Hello, Robert and Clive. Yeah, well, I guess it all started, I don't know, 15 years ago, perhaps, my sim racing career.
15 years? Wow, okay.
Not RRLeagues, but myself sim racing.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I used to race at United Racers League, where I picked up a copy of GTR2 and really enjoyed it and looked for somewhere to race. So I had a few races at URL, and GTR2 was dying out, and they touched on R Factor 2, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then Race Room kind of came along. Greg Metcalf got me into Race Room, and we was enjoying playing that, and looked for somewhere, a group, a community to race Room, but we couldn't really see anything out there. We did hope United Racers League might carry the baton with Race Room, but that never came to fruition. So we looked for other groups to race at, and we found a little Discord group called RRLeagues. Maybe only a dozen or so members, maybe only 6 turned up on race night if you were lucky. But that's kind of the best we could find at the time. So,
and what sort of, I mean, going back to United Racers League, what, to give people an idea of time frame, what sort of machines were you playing? Were you driving on back then?
It was primarily the GT1 class.
Like hardware, for example.
Oh, hardware, yeah. Well, I began with keyboard. I was a keyboard warrior
On PC.
racing on my keyboard for many races.
Wow.
But just on a small screen, and I can't remember the rest of my hardware, to be honest. But it was just a shop bought PC, really basic level, entry level equipment. So.
And RR Leagues, I presume, was what, about 2015, 2016, or was it later than that?
No, a bit later. I believe maybe back end of 2016. Greg and I, we like to race seriously, shall we say, and maybe the RR Leagues group that we found on Discord wasn't so serious, which was okay in a way, but no good for the racing we wanted. So we tried to get it a bit more in line and introduce some rules and principles. Which worked. It worked. I mean, grids grew from maybe 6 to 10 to 15 to 20, and we was kind of getting there. The members were growing, and yeah, it was good. And well, how did that progress? Well, Greg kind of left for his own reasons, so that's when I started advertising quite a lot on Sector 3 website and social media and as many places I could, and it did entice new members to come, and yeah, it was just a steady growth from there, really.
And the guys that started RR Leagues, they were quite happy for you to take the admin reins, and it's how it's been since, really.
Yes, it was basically Stacey Chandler and Henk Jan Steniker were the main two guys there at the beginning with that small Discord group, and yeah, they appeared happy to hand the reins over, type of thing, and for me to steer it in the direction I wanted to go, and yeah, never looked back, really.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, there was a guy called Lee McCabe. He was very instrumental in making RRLeagues what it is now, because he was like an old hat who had his hands in a few other communities, which I can't quite remember the names of at the minute, but he was an old hat and he knew all the strings to pull, and he gave us a forum and a website, and he gave us like league management software as well, so we could track results and standings and rankings and all this, and it really blossomed thanks to Lee's input.
I mean, it's funny you say things. I mean, when join a sim racing league, whoever it might be, there are always some admins that will run various things. But I mean, I didn't realise until I became part of the admin team just how much goes on behind the scenes. Like you said there, just finding things that will actually help you run a league, do the scoring for you, produce those sort of things that the drivers are looking for. That's a lot of work.
Oh, it is. It was immense. The amount of hours I put into RRLeagues in the beginning years was frightening when I look back, really.
And Robert, do you remember when you started with RRLeagues, when you came into it?
Yes, I think it was in 2017, after United Racers League unfortunately dismissed. And then I knew Cy and Greg are racing somewhere else, and I decided to check it out, and I stick around here.
And
I was
going to say, tell us some stories. What do you know since those times? What have you been through?
I really like the United Racers League because of its spirit, its rules, the fairness of the racing, and that was the first ever league I participated. I just played with controller and keyboard before that for a couple of years. I bought a wheel, and then I found that league, and I wanted to continue in a league. It's similar to that, like in the spirit.
And do you feel that spirit has been brought forward from United Race League to RRL? Do you think those morals are still in place today?
I might be wrong, but I think Cy was inspired a bit by the United Racers League, by the rules, by the stewarding, etc. So I thought, okay, it's a good place, so let's continue here. It's the fair racing. We had some quite a good quality grids. A lot of former URL members continued here, like Reinhard or Greg or some other people too. It was a nice place, so I decided, okay, let's race here.
And as I touched on earlier, the choice back then is not what it is now. I mean, now you can search for a racing league and there'll be hundreds out there for you to choose from. But 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, that was before I started sim racing. That wasn't the case, I take it.
No, it wasn't. No, like you say, now there's too much choice now. Nearly leagues, good leagues, but on good events. And if a driver doesn't get off to the start he wants, maybe he'll soon sack that series off and go look for another one, because there's just ample amounts of communities and events out there at the minute that are offering people somewhere to race. But just to touch on what Robert said about URL, it's absolutely true. RRLeagues was basically a copy and paste of URL. Miguel Santiago Carew especially, I was very inspired by him. He was a great admin at URL, very calm and concentrated and just a great guy. And everything they did, I thought it worked. It's just a shame that GTR2 died out and RF2 didn't really take off. So, as I said, I wanted R3E there, but not Miguel, but maybe some other admin wasn't so keen on it happening. So I thought, right, we'll crack on with RRLeagues and just do a copy and paste of URL, because that was something that worked and worked really well. So in the early days, the way I set up the forum and everything, it was just a copy of United Racers League, and it was a proven format, and it worked well.
It did. I've saved the star of the show till last, only because his voice is just to die for, and I can just listen to him for hours. Clive Britton is also with us. Clive, when did you join RRL, and what's your story?
Well, lads, what's crack? Martin, Cy, Rob.
Yeah.
When did I join? Well, I think it was late 2018 was my very first race. I was playing. I only had an iMac and I had a Windows partition on it, and it was the only way I could play like games. I think I did. I got a Lenovo G27 off a friend of mine and just started racing. I was primarily in dirt rally. That's where I started, and I kind of just wanted to do a bit of track racing. And I can't remember where I saw RRL, probably somewhere in the forums because that's where I started. And then I never even know what Discord was, so I jumped in there and I started racing. And I think that I got a bit mouthy in some.
No.
I was like complaining about stuff and like maybe stewards, and I'd write a little thing about my opinion about the stewards. I was just being a mouthy little whatever. And then I guess after a while they were like, "Hey, we might as well put that mouth to some use." And I was contacted about becoming a staff, and I was like, "Great, let's do it."
I have found actually that that's a route to this to where we sat today because I've been exactly there with you, Clive, as well.
Just giving out and complaining and that kind of stuff, and they're like, "Well, you might as well do something with that mouth."
I was going to say, if you're on an iMac, I'm guessing you're a bit of a creative, are you then?
Well, I guess like, if I was going to write down a profession by college, I did fine art. What that's going to do for me now, I don't know, but it's led me to with the free time I had in college, it was something to do like the sim racing and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
So, but I only got my first computer, like the one I'm playing on now. I kind of came very late to all of this, like only in the last like 4 years. I only got my first gaming computer a few years ago, so I'm very new. So like in terms of like when I'm a staff and like setting up the servers and stuff, I do a lot of that. But Sai taught me all of that, and I'm only it's all very new to me, like that kind of way.
Yeah,
And
I think
I only kind of brush on the surface. I don't go any deeper.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. A lot of the drivers that come to race with us are not, some of them have obviously come from other leagues and stuff, but some people are new that come to us. And I'm very similar to you. Like I played on PlayStations and stuff, and back to the days of even like Outrun and Ridge Racer, if you want to go back that far. But I didn't even know this was a possibility. I mean, unfortunately.
No.
My brother and I we've been into cars and motoring for years and years and years. He was he's 10 years older than me. And he used to do something called tri-karting, which is basically like two wheels at the front, one wheel at the back, a bit like a Morgan. But it would be like a dirt car. And he would go out on a Sunday, come back looking like he'd been literally dunked in a pond of poo. But that was, he used to love that, and he would do the car up and everything like that. But like I said, unfortunately he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. And had we known, or had I known that this kind of thing was available, one of the things I look at now is like, if only I knew that this was available, we could have done this together. And it's one of the things I really hold that I just wish we'd have had like one race on this. But having this available, I mean, we probably all played in arcades when we were younger and played video games. What we have available to us now and the equipment and things, I couldn't have even dreamed of that 20, 30 years ago. And the fact that we have it available at our fingertips now is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Formula 1 97 on a PlayStation controller, that was like the pinnacle for me up until I was in my late 20s.
And I bet you were quick as well, weren't you?
I wouldn't say that. I did love pottering around in a Tyrrell doing the full race lap or the full race distance, and that was good fun.
I just wanted to touch this, the demo version of this Formula 1 97 in the library of our high school. We went there in every big pause, like 15 minutes, and we made a 3-lap race.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That was the first touch of the sim racing for me.
Wow, a big 20-inch cathode CRT TV as well, I guess.
I think my first. There's been many computer games that I've really enjoyed. Going back to Revs 2, I don't know if you can remember that, by Jeff Crammond. I used to play it on the old BBC computer. God, that was
wow, this is a bit for my time.
40 years ago that now. And
yeah, I did my O levels, and in fact it was an O level and not a GCSE. I did my O levels with a BBC B. So
yeah. What a cracking machine that was. but again, when I was on holidays with my parents, the amount of 50p's I put in Outrun was unbelievable. I would save up all year for my holiday spends and just stick it in out one when I got to the old arcades on the seafront. It was great memories.
Well, it was well worth it when you see your results and these days, man. I think it was money well spent.
Well, it enlightened the passion, didn't it, for sure? And yeah, I don't think I ever finished that one, to be honest. The amount of money I put into it, I definitely should have done. But
yeah, Outrun was classic. I must admit, I used to love Outrun.
Yeah, I remember putting the 50p in and getting that noise. Brilliant. Brilliant. But yes, where sim racing has come now, and the games that are on offer, I don't think, because I think of my friends who love racing but don't get a chance really to do anything that would even come close to real life racing. And if only they knew of the tool that's available to them at a relatively cheap price, really. I mean, you don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds to get into sim racing, and it's such a real life experience. It's
especially in the VR.
Yes, I just think racing enthusiasts are just missing out. If they're not rich enough to race in real life, then if they're not sim racing, then they really are missing out, because it's what it offers is just fantastic.
And how many times have you tried to explain to somebody just how realistic it is for them to say, "Oh, it's just a computer game," and you're like, "No, it's not that at all," and they're like, "Okay."
You've lost.
You know what brings it around for them when you show them the YouTube stuff. Like when they see the YouTube stuff, that's always the moment that they go, "Oh shit, this is real."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, it is. Look."
Yeah.
And you must show an onboard video, like all of the calculation, the engineering stuff that you have to do meanwhile during the driving. So it's not easy at all.
Yes, I think people that don't know just expect something in chase cam, don't they? Where you're running over the inside of curbs, and it's.
Well, my mum's 78. She came to stay with us for Christmas, and she obviously knows that I do it. And she says, "Well, I want to go in that. I want to have a go." So I sat her down in the rig. She's only like 5 foot, so bless, she could hardly reach the pedals, and got the old VR thing on for her. And you know what? She was completely. I was so proud of her. Completely in her element. Didn't get phased by it at all. And when she come out of it, it's just like you're in the car, isn't it? I was like, yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you.
What was she playing? What were you playing?
I gave her the NSU around Silverstone National, just because she couldn't kill herself.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
One thing I have found, when people get into drive, they constantly overcorrect. And I have to tell them, no, just pretend you're driving a car, because that's what you're doing. But I do tend to find that they always seem to seesaw. Everyone I've ever put in the rig have always been the same. Don't know why.
I suppose maybe like the wheel travel is so different in a racing setup than a normal setup, I guess.
Yeah, it may be the G-forces, because you're not feeling the G-forces and feeling the car sway,
that's
maybe.
Probably it. That's actually, yeah. What does your mother think of the YouTube stuff? Like, because I showed my mother, and like she was just kind of like, I can't believe this is real. Because like there was like, a commentator, she doesn't know you, but there's a commentator and like talking about like me and the driving that's going on around and all the different people, and it's like, to her eyes, it's a professional setup. It's all done really well, like, and she's just like, it blows her mind, like.
Well, again, with my mum, before she knew about the whole driving and what it was, she knew that I commentated. So I we did the Sirocco Championship not long ago.
Yeah.
So I put the one on of going up the mountain at Mount Panorama, and I put it on my iPad, and she was watching it away, and she says, "Oh, it's really good, isn't it?" And I think there was a big crash at the top of the mountain, and she went, "Oh, was anybody hurt in that?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so, Mum." And she said, "Oh, it looked really bad, didn't it?" And it's only when I said to her, only when I said to her, "You do know this is a computer game, don't you? You do know this isn't real." And she looked at me and she went, "Well, no, it's real. You can see." I was like, "No, that's a computer game." And she went, "You could see a chin that she hit the floor."
Wow. And that's on Race Room. I can't
exactly,
imagine if it had been like the other night, ACC in the wet, like that looked mint.
Yeah, like last time at the Hungaroring. That looked really
like
great. That was so great
so
to
good,
watch.
like.
Yeah. So, talking about Hungaroring last time out, I suppose we should let people know that we've got a championship. We've got 2 championships going on at the moment at RRLeagues. one in the. Well, we'll go through the first one first. ACC, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Hear my Italian accent in as well. It's very good.
Yeah, that was meant that worked out. You said
I
that
landed that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did nail it.
With 3 races into a 6-race season, Robert and Si, you both drive in that. Clive and I don't. So, Si, Robert, tell us what you've experienced so far in that series. Si first, go on.
What have we experienced? Well, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Really, it's Ralph and I love ACC series. We enjoy the race ones too, but ACC is just that extra bit special to us. Why?
Is that because it's more realistic?
Um,
As in graphically and immersion?
Maybe to an extent. It's just more. Yes, it's definitely just more realistic than Race Room. The competition seems to be a lot better as well in ACC, in the GT3 Championship, and that's what we really like. Ralph doesn't like the 8-time champion that he is. He doesn't like winning easily. We both love the competition, and that especially seems to be a lot more prevalent in the ACC championships, especially compared to the GTO championship at the minute, which doesn't really offer a lot. But top of the drivers championship is close between Ralph, Cliff, and I forget who else. I haven't got the
And yourself, even.
Was
not-
Rick, I think, in P3 now?
Yeah, Ricky, Bobby.
Rick
Yes.
Binnersley, yeah. David Dorr, even one of our other admins. You know, he's
yes,
out
but
there as well.
there's many drivers that can win a race, and the teams championship especially, we really enjoy that, and as we can see, that's such a close championship at the top as well. So everything's still to play for. And
I suppose you should get a plug in here, really. If you are listening to this and you want to watch those races, just go onto YouTube and look for RRLeagues. That's RRLeagues, all in one word, and you'll see all those races on the live streams there with commentary for myself. So go and check those out and watch Si. Last race you were defending very well from about 4 people behind you. Managed to hold off for quite a while there.
yeah, that was a crazy race and a really good race as well. The weather throwed up some various strategies between us. I don't really think there was a wrong one, to be honest. Wet tyres or dry tyres. They both came into their own at some stage of the race, and yeah, it was just who made the right pit stops at the right time, really. And maybe I made mine a little bit too early. The track dried, and I thought there was no rain on the forecast, so I thought as soon as the track dries, I'm coming in to get dries. It's a no-brainer, and I thought I'd nailed it, and then within a lap of going out, the rain appeared on the forecast. So that blew.
When did you pit? Sorry.
It was the end of lap 8.
It was like 1 and 15 minutes. 1 or 15 minutes to go. So you just managed to do it with a full tank.
Yeah, I think it was about 40,
Yes,
45,
just, yeah.
46
I had no
laps.
idea. I had no idea of the fuel because in my stupidity, I didn't launch crew chief because I usually ask crew chief how much fuel I need for X amount of minutes, like to finish the race, and I asked him and there was no reply, and I was like, shit. So yeah, I just filled up, put dries on, and hope for the best. To be honest, I was fully expecting to have to come in to get some more fuel, but it became apparent that I didn't need any more fuel, and managed to limp through the second wet period. And but yes, after you pitted late on and Rick behind, and even David, they had much fresher tyres, and I was under a lot of pressure. And yeah,
I was just going to say, Robert was one of the cars you were holding off there at the end on a completely different strategy. Went massively long into the race to the point where I didn't think you were actually going to stop at one point. But yeah, I mean, you did a completely different race, and it was something. When you're commentating, it's normally quite easy to see how a race is going to pan out. But that race on last Sunday was. Clive, I know, was watching it in chat as well when I was commentating on it. And I think between the two of us, we were completely lost as to what was going to happen in that race. We had no idea who was going to win it.
It was absolutely brilliant.
And we don't, of course, have the information that you guys have in the cockpit. We see a certain amount of stuff that's going on. Probably in some ways a lot more than you guys do from position-wise on track. But obviously you guys are struggling with what tyres to take, what strategy to use. Do I come in? Do I wait for the rain to go? Do I wait for it to rain again? And I think that last race at Hungaroring perfectly summed up just what Assetto Corsa Competizione offers as a racing, if you're actually a racing driver and you enjoy driving, because that had all the strategy in with the driving as well.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. First, I don't think Sai's strategy was wrong. Maybe just a couple of laps more into the race, but I think it was also a good strategy to start on wets and then change to dries when it's dried out. I went to the other way. Yeah, I saw, okay, it's wet, it's relatively warm, and it's just cloudy. So I decided, okay, I will suffer in the first few laps, but probably it will be good later. And then the formation lap started, and I saw that rain in 30 minutes. Okay, great.
I mean, it was funny watching you drive around on the formation lap and actually seeing the sun start to come out and the shadows start to form. And again, that's another part of that simulation software that just makes it that much more involving.
I was astonished at how quick the dry line came. I was really disappointed in that.
I think after like 5 laps, the lap times were quite equal between wet and dry tires. Yeah, but at the time, the end of the formation, we already saw that there will be rain. I just hope that it won't be long, and then I saw that, okay, it's cloudy again in 30, so I knew it's just a shower, and we managed to do that, survived it, and after that, it was just I was going into my stint as long as I could. I started quite a lot of fuel, not a full tank, but it was enough for more than 1 hour. So it was not optimal.
We won't
in
spoil
the
the result because obviously that's on YouTube. But I think you both of you drove an excellent race and finished well up the grid. So yeah, congrats to both on there. I thought you both drove a fantastic race for that one. Clive. Race room. We don't really have dry lines to think about, do we?
No, that's really unfortunate. Like that, like you were talking about the race the other day, it was so enjoyable to watch, and you could see the clouds. You could tell, oh, it's getting darker. Oh, this is going to be great. And just that excitement and of the weather is just slightly lacking in race room, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's such a shame. Like,
but I'm with you. I mean, I think you prefer race room probably over ACC because you don't drive ACC very much for certain reasons. I can't blame my computer for not driving ACC. I'm just not very good in it. But I do love race room. I don't know what it is about it. It just suits my driving style. Some cars it doesn't, but in the main, it kind of suits where I am. And for two simulation programs to offer two not completely different experiences, but different experiences in that one is literally, I mean, Race Room's not an arcade game, but it does give you that, like, you can really race somebody door to door and have a few incidents here and there and not come out of it feeling like it's ruined your race. Whereas ACC is such a simulation based software that if you do have an incident in that, then it tends to slightly be exaggerated over real life, is that it can end your race just within a click of a button.
So to be fair, like, right, yeah, that it, like, the big crashes like the one that we saw in Spa, they did seem a bit exaggerated. But then I did notice in Hungaroring that, like, the thing with Race Room, I always used to, it's got such good netcode, and that was, that was the thing. You could really just, you bump, very realistic, just bump off each other. But like watching the race the other night, I thought ACC, the netcode looked pretty fucking good when they were racing close to, like, side by side and stuff like that. Yeah, that was really impressive.
But you're a bit of a race room star, though, really, aren't you? I mean, it's very rare you get into a car and find that you can't drive it. You can see where I'm going. I'm trying to get into the Mustang with this, but most cars you can get in, you can literally drive the wheels off them.
I'm struggling with it. My right foot is too heavy for these cars. I need, like, about the DTM 95 is about as like as old as I can go without having to, like, spin all the time. I just can't tell my right foot to not floor it all the time. Which is, yeah, like season 57, the Mustang Cup is great fun. It's just unfortunate with the balance that Sector 3 have put out for the GTOs.
I think it's the engine cooling, isn't it? I think for the turbo cars, the Nissan and the Audi, they can run on map 4 and 5, and it won't hurt their engine. So that has the Mustang a disadvantage.
But then even like isn't the Mustang supposed to be a bit better in the twisty stuff, or in the like the slightly? But it doesn't really seem to, with the 4-wheel drive of the Audi. It doesn't really seem to be in any way balanced at any point throughout the whole lap. I don't know what they were.
Well, what I've learned with driving with the Audi is that as long as you keep the turbo kicking in and you keep it in a fairly high gear, for most of the time you're on the circuit, the turbo's always running. I suppose the idea is that when you're on a twisty track, you'll drop the turbo pressure and you won't get the same acceleration out of the corner. But it doesn't take much to learn that actually you can use the lack of turbo power on some corners to actually turn the car and then get on the turbo as you're in the middle of the corner. So as you exit, it's already starting to pick up.
And it is a 4-wheel drive, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Do you notice that much?
What, that it's 4-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Especially at the start, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it goes off like a rocket.
It goes off like a rocket.
But I haven't noticed as many people like spinning with the Audi.
Yeah, I think Andre Bergsma touched on it in, I think it was in the last race, the race at Brno. And I found it as well because of the changes in elevation. At the start of the race, when it's heavy, it's a real pick of a car to drive, and you really have to be careful just how you've got to make sure you don't throw it around, because the back end can really just lose it no matter what drive you've got. But once the tyres are up to a very high temperature, because they do tend to melt their tyres, it's actually a fairly, I wouldn't say easy car to drive. It's a fairly easy car to drive, pretty hard to master. But once you learn that you can accelerate, even probably before you get to the apex, so the turbo can cut in and get you going after the corner, it becomes a lot more pleasurable. And again, it depends on what track you're at. But the race at Brno I found hugely entertaining. The last race I found hugely boring. So
yeah, and then another thing that you touched on there about the temperatures, just a thing with race room and ACC, like the tires make such a big difference in ACC, but in race room, like you were saying, like the temperatures could go sky high. They could be in the red all the time, and it doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, there's no interaction between the tyre and the tarmac, whereas in ACC, as those guys proved on Sunday, wet track, dry track, wet tyres, dry tyres, they soon heat up. They go like balloons. They can't get the dry tyres warm. And it adds a whole new thought process. It's not only when you're driving, because as you know, all three of you, when you're driving, it's not just concentrating on the steering, the braking and the acceleration. It's all the other stuff you've got going around in your head. How many more laps to go? When am I going to catch that guy? How am I going to get past him?
That's the problem I have with ACC. It's just there's too much. I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid for ACC. There we go. That's the reason we discovered the reason why I don't drive ACT.
Yeah, there was so many. The Spa race, when we first had the variable, 2 races ago, when we had the chance of this variable weather, the strategy trying to work out in the days before the race how to best attack the race, it was so difficult to try and understand and get a clear picture of how you was going to proceed. It was just so many variables, makes it really difficult. And like you say, Clive and Martin, you don't just drive these cars. You're the engineer and the crew chief as well. I know the crew chief app does play its part brilliantly, but it doesn't make the critical calculations that you need to make during the race to try and put yourself in the best position to win. And it is extremely difficult.
It is. That's probably another reason why I kind of stick to race room. There's not really much to think about. You kind of just get in, you fill up how much fuel? I don't know. Just put in, fill the tank, whatever. It's great. And then that's the attitude. I kind of enjoy that. So yeah.
And it's
ACC just too much. And then because I don't have Jim chattering in my ear, which I'm going to rectify, I'm going to get crew chief. But because he told me the option of how to make him not so mean, which is the reason that I didn't have him before, because I couldn't take the abuse.
A little shout out to Jim. He should have been on the podcast tonight, but he's got to go out and pick his little girl up from Brownies. So it's a shame because we would have liked Jim on board, but perhaps we'll pick him up in the next episode and see if we can get Jim's take on things because he's always a fun character to get involved.
Yeah, we miss him.
We do.
We miss you, Jim.
So on to the general. Actually, before we go there, let's just go back to the two championships we've got, and I kind of want to blow smoke up your arse here, guys. In that having championships that work like they do, there's a lot of effort that goes in behind the scenes to get these championships up and running, and it's not just people will think, especially with the GTO class, the fact that it's quite mismatched that we just threw that together. And there may be a little bit of truth in that, but there's a lot of planning that goes into actually putting these series together, which tracks we choose, the length of the races, how we're going to use the tyres, to make sure the challenge is perfectly suited for the races. And I think sometimes as a driver, you can just overlook that. The races come along, you're racing them, you had a really great time, and not a lot of thought goes into, I wonder how they managed to pick that track out with that weather and how that worked. Especially with, like I said, with Spa and Hungaroring were particularly good examples with ACC, in that the weather was variable, which in that part of the world, rather, it tends to be. And you had wet practice and a dry race at Spa, and you had a wet practice and a wet race at Hungaroring. That's actually by design. I know there's a randomness in it, but obviously when you put the series together, there is actually a lot of organisation that goes into building that scenario.
If I'm coding and stuff that has to be done for ACC blows my mind whenever I see you talking about it and the way you're sorting it out on the. I can't.
When you see the famous JSON files, you look at it and you think, "Oh my god!"
It's just letters and numbers, and I'm like, I don't talk that. I don't understand. You deal with it, and it's just amazing to me that how you can set it all up. To be honest,
I know it's because you were saying race room doesn't have weather like ACC, and you wish it does, but I don't know. Sometimes we want these things, and when we get them, we just want to moan about them. We've had many failures with ACC, weather-wise, trying to get a reasonable condition, a wet condition. Previous championships were spoilt really by too much rain, what we thought was right. So it's taken a lot of effort. But Robert's done really well with the weather, to be honest, and this weather setting that we've had for Spa and Hungary is really on the money. I think it's a really good variation of everything. We're all left wondering what the next session is going to produce, and not even the next session, the next half an hour, and that's really a benefit to the championship and the races where we want this wet weather to take us.
Yes, I think we just found something we can build up on. So yes, these are settings which we should remember and variety. And if we want some more variable weather, it's a good start because it was not unrealistic. Like we try to simulate real weather. Like after the forecast, it was a bit sweaty, I must say.
Yeah,
it was a bit flip a coin, and it'll either be a flood or it'll be burning sunshine, wasn't it, in the past? You are right, yeah.
It was a bit of a guessing, and we had that chart, Excel chart, but it doesn't cover the reality, and there were continuous changes in the game, so the weather simulation also changed. So now I hope it will stay as it is now, and now we can have some more ideas, maybe from some more weather. We can maybe try to find a more realistic weather for each track, for example, or for each country the track is in.
Indeed.
Yeah. What we don't want is Kunos to decide to update the multiplayer weather, and then we're back to square one, thinking, where do we go from here? So yeah, let's hope we've come across something good now.
I just wanted to say I was really happy with the conditions. I love these real life conditions, not just go out and make hot laps and flat out and the fastest win. You have to be clever, you have to risk, you have to have some racecraft, and you don't have to be the fastest one to win, because there are so many variations and so many opportunities to make some little mistake, and it can shake things up. And I really like this.
So as it's our first podcast, I've gone a little bit out of order here, but I want to try and talk about what was the massive rise in the popularity of sim racing as the pandemic seemed to kick in full force, and how that seemed at the back end of last year literally just drop off a cliff as people either got back to real life or had burnout. So I'd be really interested. What was your? I mean, obviously you've seen it from the very early beginnings and the gradual growth of RRL. Did you see it really kick off when the pandemic kicked in, or was it like already on a good climb previously to that?
No, there was for sure an influx of people with spare time, and there was looking to fill that time with racing, I suppose. I was doing some work for Race Room at the time, doing some special events, shall we say, and we did notice certainly an increase in participation for those special events, and even Race Room servers were struggling to take the load of new drivers and what's not. So for sure, it was a booming time, and that's when when communities formed, trying to offer all the excess races events to racing, and now we're all left wondering where everyone's gone, or at least that seemed the case just before Christmas and whatever, where we was all struggling to get drivers into race. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it was just a bit of burnout after such a heavy period of being at home, sim racing, and yeah, maybe people just got bored of the gaming it offered, and hopefully it'll come back and they'll want something new soon.
I wonder as well if it was the advent. I mean, because ACC came out around that sort of time, didn't it? And everyone was getting involved in that, and there are updates coming out to it on a fairly regular basis. There are DLCs coming out, and over the last 12 months now, there hasn't really been any sort of massive updates that makes people want to jump in again and start driving again. You've got the likes of SimGrid and people like that offered daily league racing, which hadn't been offered prior to that. So there was, like you said, loads of different areas where people could go. But I do tend to find wherever people do go, they always seem to want to come back to a league racing scenario where you're racing with people that you can talk to after it. Which I have to say, with RRLeagues, is one of the seeing the chat after the race in Discord. It's probably more entertaining than actually watching the race sometimes, because it's great that everyone knows each other, everyone gets on, and even new people that come in or immediately almost feel part of that group. I think it's one of our strongest assets, really.
Yeah, we're in a nice position where we're not too big, and not too small. We have a nice number of members. I know I appreciate they all don't race, but certainly the closeness of the community certainly helps the camaraderie in the group. You can just look at some of the old names. The more you stick to a league and commit to their events, the better the bond is between you as a group, and the much better racing you have. It's just a no-brainer, really. Why I don't know. I suppose I know why people pick up these pickup races, but for an all-out experience of sim racing and everything that goes with it, then a league is your best bet, and you've just got to stick with it. Go through all the events.
I think that Discord has definitely affected sim racing, as in not like, I guess when I started it was Discord, but before you would have to, like, if you decided, okay, the public servers aren't what I want to get a bit more involved, or whether you had to go to like a forum or something like that, there was a bit more effort to find the group and to like get involved. So but with Discord, it's like social media. It's just so easy to kind of just follow something and then never go into that page ever again and kind of forget like you have followed it. So like it's good to see like people sticking around, but I can understand how kind of the number, how Discord has kind of made it so it not too easy, but like you know what I'm getting at. Like
Yeah, definitely.
it's not as hard. You don't have to put as much effort in to go and find a community anymore. So you just do one race and then you kind of just forget about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when I started looking around for somewhere to race, and I was just a pre-pandemic racer, but only just. I mean, I found RRL just before the pandemic hit in January 2020.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, man! I feel like you've been around
Does
for
it really?
a lot longer than that.
And when I looked on Race App, because I was looking for a generally English-speaking league that were racing sort of like European hours. And there was 5 leagues on Race App at that time, of which you were one. And there was a couple of others, and I think you were RRL was either the second or the third largest at that time. But if you go onto Race App now, the number of leagues on there now is scary. And I say scary, it's scary in that there's that many leagues out there for people to race in. But the number of members that each of those leagues has, if you put them all together, the actual global number of people at sim racing now is huge.
It was definitely on the rise before the pandemic, and then the pandemic just kind of shot it through the roof, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that, and I say that, and the rise of ACC as well, which is obviously the one that everyone kind of wants to play. That's what all the people want to drive in. But I think the fact that came out when it did, and the pandemic came round all of a sudden. I think
even like the new crop of Formula One drivers, like they're on Twitch. Do you know, like that's
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
that you can watch Formula One drivers winning things, and then you can just go and watch them playing ACC or
Yeah,
something
You
like
can
that.
play against
And then
them.
there's a possibility you might meet them in a server like that. That kind of stuff is like that blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, I mean, I look back to a past where Formula One was a lot closer to the crowds in that, you didn't have, the protection that the drivers get now. You could get into the pit lane.
You could have a mooch about.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't quite as closed off as it is now, because you literally can't go anywhere without 17 different passes and a tattoo on your arse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, as Robert rightly said, you can go into a server now and you might be racing Max Verstappen, you might be racing Lando Norris, you might be racing George Russell. That is
It's wild.
It's just,
and it's only going to keep going on like that, like, because that's just.
Yeah, I mean, whereas
kids
in the 70s and 80s would go home and they'd tell their kids, they'd try to tell their mum or whatever, and tell their kids in the future, I touched James Hunt, or I saw Niki Lauda race for real. The kids of today will tell their kids a story.
In the traffic lights.
Yeah, exactly. I touched Nigel Mansell's car. When we all surrounded it. But the kids of today will be telling their kids in the future, I raced Max Verstappen in real life. I was in the same server.
And he was shit.
I beat him.
Yeah, he took me off. What a bastard.
Yeah. No apology in Discord after. Absolute.
Oh, guys, I'll tell you what, that's nearly been an hour. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest while we're here?
No, all good.
We just want to say what a great job you do, Martin, in presenting us to the outside world. You, if it wasn't for you, I'm sure we wouldn't be as
this was all Martin's idea.
Globally popular as we are. But yeah, the commentary you do on our streams and
I've got to be honest. The reason that is, I'm not saying it's easy, but the reason I find that so enjoyable goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago, is that I feel like I know many of the people in the community. I know we're talking here and what, but many of us I haven't even met apart from online or spoke to each other on. But I feel like
and may that continue.
You're going to hate this. I feel like many of you are some of my closest friends, because I speak to you a lot. I'm engaging with you a lot. I'll probably speak to you more than a lot of my other friends that I have in real life.
100%.
So you are like a family. So when I'm commentating on those races, I am commentating on a lot of my friends that are raced in a race.
Yes, you know our history, don't you?
Exactly.
And that comes across on the stream. Your knowledge of their RRLeagues career and what they've done, and it adds to the immersion. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's only because, like I said, I know you as a group of people, and when new people come in, it's nice to bring those guys in and to gently get them in, because sometimes when the guys come in and they're not, especially you guys, I mean, I've been through the same thing, and you're not the quickest in the world. And this is I have to say, this is a very strong league. But I have to say that when I first started, I was really in awe, I think, of some of the guys at the front.
Very intimidating.
It is absolutely intimidating. And you feel like you've come from, you get into sim racing because you're good at it. Let's be honest, you've played a game at some point, you enjoy it, and then you think, I'll take the next step and I'll go and race against real people or league. And then when I stepped into RRL and started racing you guys, I suddenly had this massive smash at the back of my head that someone's saying, actually, do you know what? You're not actually that good. And that was really quite a wake-up call, because
I can imagine,
I had quite a big head back at that stage. I thought I was pretty good. I've won karting trophies. I'd been driving for in quick cars for a long time. And to step into that arena and suddenly find that actually you're just an also-ran, if even that.
It's so different from AI as well. Like, it's for me, it was like I was doing an AI and then I went into RRL and I was like, I was terrified. Like, I was like, holy shit, this is like, these are real people around me. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And for the new, that's what I'm saying with the new guys coming in to commentate on their races. If you're listening to this and you are a new guy racing with us, the reason that I don't concentrate on you as part of the stream is that I don't want to embarrass you, because the last thing you want to see is you making an error at the back of the field that the guys at the front don't do. And also, it's nice to be able to be, and I don't mean this to sound, what's the word? It's like a free education. There's a lot of sim racing people out there that charge money to teach you how to drive and how to get quicker. But honestly, racing you guys is the best money you could spend, and it's free.
Whenever there's someone better than me or anyway faster, I always watch what they're doing.
Exactly.
I'll go into the race monitor or something like that, and just like, oh, they break there. Okay, all right, I'll give that a go. Or like, oh, they take a tighter line than I do. I didn't realize I could do that kind of thing. I do it all the time.
And that is one of the things with sim racing, is that you can actually sit and watch somebody go around a track from their perspective or from outside the car.
Oh, yeah.
You can see where they brake, and you can build that into how you drive. And a lot of that comes through as your education. Like I said, I've been racing here nearly over 2 years now, and only now do I feel like I'm slightly competitive. I'll never be able to touch the guys at the front. I mean, Ralph's like an alien, and some of you other guys are just like out of this world. But the enjoyment of actually beginning to be able to race you guys it's been a real, it's really reignited my fire again for sim racing. So
you really feel, you notice when you level up in sim racing, I've noticed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You just like, oh, I was doing these kind of laps and I was in this kind of positions all the time, and then like it seems like it happens like over a race or two, and then you're slightly maybe 3-4 positions higher for a while, and you're like, oh, I leveled up. It's just really interesting to see that progression.
And I have to say,
and I feel like in sim racing you can really see it because of positions and all that kind of thing, like,
yeah, and I have to say, in real life, I'm a much better driver than I was 2 years ago.
We'll have to take your word on that, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's techniques and stuff that I've learned, which I thought I knew prior to this, which I now have got a lot more proficient in doing. I mean, obviously not. You can't heel and tow an electric vehicle, for example.
So I tried to heel and tow the car into the lane there about 2 months ago, and I almost smashed it into the wall. And I was like, I'm not doing that again.
But certainly things like trail braking, which is actually in an EV with the paddle brake and the regenerative, doing that kind of trail braking is actually quite fun round a roundabout now, which is part of my daily routine.
Were you in a sports car there not that long ago?
Yes, a little Caterham, yeah.
Oh yeah. Were you giving it a bit of welly?
I think I'm past that age now, Clive. I'm probably giving it away, but there comes a point in life where you're not quite as your life becomes more precious than it might have been 20 years earlier.
In case there's any police listening, that's an extremely good answer, Martin.
Yeah, I'm the same.
He was very sensible the whole time.
20 years ago, I'd be 30 years ago. Well, yeah, 20 years ago, I'd be wanting to drive as fast as I can, but now I'm trying to find the best line that will cause least wear to my tyres and least fuel consumption.
Yeah, brake as little as possible, so you save fuel.
And even when I'm walking, down the street, I'm trying to take the tightest line possible around corners and stuff like that, and the racing line through corners and around people. And
yeah, I mean, 30 years ago, I had a Sherrard GTTI, which at the time was the quickest 1 litre. I think it had a power to weight ratio better than a Lamborghini Diablo at the time. It was a three cylinder, 1 litre turbo injection thing, 12-valve thing. And that was as quick as you like. I mean, it felt like as quick as you like. But to think the car I'm driving now, my Retmobile, actually accelerates quicker than that thing did back then and can carry 5 people in comfort, is a little bit scary to me, because I don't feel like I've actually slowed down. But like you said, Si, it's a lot more about conserving your fuel now. It's the price it is than back then. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. I've enjoyed that.
It's been fun.
And we'll catch up again soon.
Do it again.
Well, we do hope you enjoyed our first ever podcast here at RRL. If you want further details on how to get involved or even join our Discord, you can go along to our website, www.rrleagues.com. All the details are there about everything we're doing at the moment, various different blog posts, series information, and as I say, a link on how to get into our Discord. So please pop along there and have a look. And if you've got this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell. Next time a podcast comes available, you'll be the first to know, so you can get straight into it. And if you've got any questions or anything we've talked about today, drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think. All that's left for me to do is to thank you all for listening, and hope to see you soon. Take care.